To the cloud. All right. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here with us tonight. Um, we've got a nice little group here, and we've got a good little agenda with some things for us to run through. And I think I just lost my agenda. Before we get started, we want to start the way we always do and just do a little reflection. Things that have happened in the past week, things that you're celebrating, or something you've learned. Anything you want to celebrate?
Well, I think we definitely have to celebrate the premiere.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, what a turnout.
Yeah.
Good, great evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just excited to live in this community.
Yeah, it was cool to, I think, opening up to the questions or comments afterwards and like having artists talk, but then community members talk was pretty cool, and seeing people excited to do that and how excited they are for the catalog was really cool.
Yeah, some people ran home and entered requests, which is good too.
Oh, wait, did you get requests immediately following it?
I did, which means they might need to step back and engage some neighbors first, but we'll work through that.
I love it.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on was that Wednesday night? Wednesday night. Yeah.
Well, the empowerment there was really eye-opening.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea how many people were dealing with homelessness. I mean, it was kind of mind-blowing.
So let's hear about that. Yeah.
Well, where to begin? We got there early, and there were some people that were helping us load in. I guess people that they were coming in for assistance, they were helping us load in, and everybody was really friendly. And we got started, and there were um, a lot of places that we had like a clothes donation thing, food boxes. There were some healthcare booths. There were some employment opportunities. There were things for pets. Homeless people. Like sometimes we might forget, like, what if you end up being homeless and then you have your pet? What do you do? So there was, I think, Angels of Assisi was there, and so it was really good to see all that come together. And I mean, a lot of people were, I'm sure, really getting some good benefits from it. And it was just the amount of attendees, it was just like, wow, because we see homeless people here and there, stop signs, but I mean, there was like 100 or more people.
Polly, let me come to you and thank you for organizing that, getting everybody on board. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there. Let's hear how it went.
It was very successful, and Bruce emailed back that there were 181 participants visiting. They had lunch, trying to open up my email here, and went to 39 vendors there who were sharing resources and or specific items to take home. 32 volunteers were there during the day. 2 pets from homeless folks or folks without homes. They were able to bring in their dogs and get some services from Angels of Assisi's. And they also collected 32 more of the surveys that they were getting filled out by folks living without homes right now. And so that was part of their point in time count. And I'll pass it on to Catherine or Brett if you'd like to, as far as any special conversation we had with folks who came up to either look at the artwork or participate in one of the activities or get one of their portraits drawn. Catherine?
Hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, it's working. Well, I do feel really grateful to have been able to be part of it, to kind of get the idea of this kind of in planning of everything. so that as they move forward, this is something that is included. And I had one conversation that I still have the piece of paper from someone who had been taking classes at Virginia Western, was in the art program there, and then just had a series of things that went wrong. And now she is at the rescue mission. And she was saying, I was just saying, like, how can I help? And when she gets to a better place, she would definitely be grateful to get art supplies. So it was really nice to make a connection. And also, I talked to her, and I'm sure it has already occurred, but if it hasn't, to provide, it would be really wonderful to create opportunity for people that are at the rescue mission to go see the swoon exhibit, because so much of what that exhibit is really addressing in such a thoughtful way is how we're all kind of connected, and someone's plight at one time could be, understood better through doing art together, or it being expressed in a work of art. But that was really meaningful. I had that one conversation with that one person. I mean, everything else was nice, but that really felt like the highlight for me, to have somebody that really wanted to continue to grow as an artist and was just temporarily, hopefully, in a situation where she was limited.
Hey,
And
Brett.
then,
Yeah, there you go.
Actually, the thing that amazed me most was how many people, I guess I didn't really even think about it. So many people were getting haircuts. There was someone there doing haircuts, and they were probably the busiest person there. I mean, it was all day long. I mean, it's just one of those things you like to get done, but it's just impossible if you're homeless. So that was really nice to see. I mean, everyone I talked to, I thought, well, maybe one or two people might keep their portrait. They might want to keep it. So I brought Sharpies. So, it wouldn't smear or anything if they wanted to take it with them. And everybody kept them. No one wanted to give them up. And I ended up doing a bunch of them. I was amazed. But and they're all super nice. But the nice person who came, he wanted me to do a portrait of him and his wife. And I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be tough. And then I thought, well, they'll sit side by side. And he stood behind her. I was like, oh God, I can't screw this. And it turned out fine, but maybe so nervous to do it, because I mean, they were such a loving couple. I don't know. That's another thing you don't think about so often with homeless people. It's like, it's not always just one person. So I don't know. I just thought it was a super interesting day. And it was nice to meet all those people.
thank you all for being part of that. Polly, is this something you would recommend doing again next year?
Definitely. Yeah, and the more of us, that participate, the more knowledge and influence and service we can share.
Yeah. Well, I know the region's really organizing around that point in time count, because resources, we can get more resources, provide more support if we have those numbers. I think that sounds like that was more than twice the number they had last year. Last year was the first year they did it. So, and I imagine it's like anything as well. And I don't know that that necessarily indicates that the population of unhoused people is that much higher, or that word is getting out that you can come in and get some free services. But it seems like a really important thing for the community to keep doing. And I think the arts can just add even more humanity to it, and engagement that you had. Just thank you. I wish I could have been there to be a part of it. But hopefully next year. So, and thank you, Polly, for organizing us.
Mhm.
Anything else you want to celebrate, or any lessons learned, or?
Well,
All
I guess,
right.
go ahead.
Okay. No, good, Catherine.
Oh, I just wanted to say I had a meeting. Like I normally have a regular meeting with my business advisor at the Small Business Association. And the last time we met, I was talking about how I'm coming up with some ideas for this catalog. So it was really great to go today and say, this is the catalog that we were talking about. That was just a thought, the last time I met with him, I think almost like what would have been only 2 months ago. And he was super impressed. He was just like, wow, this is so well done. So just to have somebody from a different point of view that just looking at what was put together by you all, all of us are being part of. It was really great to have his real appreciation for how well done it was.
And this was Tom Tanner
Yeah,
over at the Small Business Development Center.
yeah,
And he gets what we're trying to do too. We're
yeah.
trying to market the artist as well as provide services in the neighborhood.
He's
Yeah.
a real supporter. I have a question, but I'll wait till after we do what all we need to do. But I have a question related to my meeting that I can bring up later on.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, with that, we've got a special, she's not a guest because she's here all the time. She's part of the family, but she's a special presenter. Shalene Powell with the Roanoke Cultural Endowment is gonna kick us off tonight.
Yay. I had a little button I'd go like, do that fake applause because we're all on screen. Hi, screen folks. Hi, room folks. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I was thinking about what I'm going to talk about, and I was like, well, we're going to focus. I want everyone to just know what the Roanoke Cultural Endowment is by the time I'm done with this short little intro section of the meeting. But I also, Doug had said, hey, this is a great opportunity to think future wise and talk about the arts and planning as we move forward. So I will provide you with a little overview of what the Roanoke Cultural Endowment is and where we are to date with our goal. But then I want to kick into kind of historically how the Roanoke Cultural Endowment came to be, because sometimes an idea or a need that you see the community has is a way to kind of group around that and then say, hey, this is something we'll build towards. And there's power, I think, in long-term planning. And so without further ado, let's go for it. So let's see. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm going to try and navigate the screen here. I'm going to just pull up the
Yeah.
Which part do they see? This part?
Yeah. They see everything
part?
in the green square in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do I maximize or move this? Or I want to see them. All right. So, all right, I'll talk first and I'll pull up the timeline. So Roanoke Cultural Endowment. So the endowment is, we're a nonprofit here in Roanoke. Our goal is to raise $20 million, and at which point the endowment will begin to allocate and award grants, operating grants, to the city of Roanoke's nonprofit organizations. So there are over 20 nonprofits just in the city's boundaries alone. So we have a strong, thank you so much for doing that. We have a really strong concentration of, cultural, creative nonprofits just right here for all of Southwestern Virginia. If you look at the concentration we have, which is kind of makes us the hub of arts for Virginia, really, this side. So I'll tell you where our goal is 20 million. We're private public partners with the city of Roanoke. And so the city does contribute to our endowment fund. To date, they've contributed about $1.7 million. Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up. Thanks, Doug. So they're financially a very good partner, but we also have a lot of short-term advocacy and how we're working on short-term programs in the community. We're trying to align ourselves and work alongside the city as much as possible too. I think that, who was it? John McCann, there was a consultant that came to town to do some adaptive leadership training with the arts and culture nonprofits. And one of his takeaway pieces of wisdom, I thought, was, hey, you know, you build an endowment fund and you have money to grant to your nonprofits. But if you don't also work on the sector and the social cohesion and networking and collaborative efforts alongside that, you kind of will have that disparity. So I think like working on the sector collectively and advancing it in a lot of different collaborative and infrastructure ways is just as important part of the puzzle. So we are over $5 million. We're banging on the $5.5 million for the endowment with a goal of 20. You know, you prompted us at the beginning to say, what are you excited about recently? And I would say I'm excited that we received $100,000 in January to the endowment, and that's a great way to, that's a new gift. And so that was a good way to start the year. So as we're thinking long-term as an art sector, I know that the Roanoke Cultural Endowment is just one piece of the puzzle. You know, that's a way to provide sustainable funding for our nonprofit arts organizations. But there are many stakeholders in our arts sector, you know, and so as we all think about long-term, how do we want to plan for the next Arts and City Cultural Plan? That I know is on the horizon here. I wanted to share this timeline because to me, it shows how much work goes into an idea and you rally around it, get feedback, and then you start putting things in motion. So back in 2011, and I think you can see this timeline, you know, the Arts and Culture Plan was adopted by City Council. And essentially the plan identified that there's a need. And there's a need to find some sort of sustainable funding model for arts and culture. And so the Roanoke Arts Commission really took the lead on that at the point. I didn't even work for the Roanoke Cultural Endowment. So like, this is me reading kind of historically, which I find fascinating. So a lot of the arts and culture organizations, like ideas came from them. There was research conducted. I think that Rupert Cutler and yourself did some work with Susan Jennings and other Arts Commission members. On different models and from peer cities. There's an arts fund model, which is a United Arts Fund model. There's a district tax, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a designated tax. And then there was like an endowment style model. And so focus groups were held in 2013. There was an economic study on arts and culture that was conducted by the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission, RVARC. You know, and then that culminated in this cultural summit back in 2013. A lot of people from the community, artists, nonprofit leaders, everyone came out. And I think they were given little clickers and they were able to give their feedback and advice on what they saw as a good model for here in Roanoke. And it was the private-public partnership for an endowment fund. And so in 2014, the city passed a resolution which endorsed this type of partnership and said, yes, go forth and create this charitable endowment. So then in 2015, the incorporation steps started and were underway. I think the endowment got its nonprofit status, and then we ended up, the board recruited itself. The board kind of fell into place with the board members. And then I joined on board at the end of 2015. And then 2016, we kind of figured out who are we, strategic plan. If you know Katie Wallace, she helped do design through her company. She's now Wallace 360, but when she was the Wallace agency, they did our logo and branding and worked with us on kind of helping figure out, you know, the weeds, like who are we, what are we, strategic planning. So that we could go out, and in 2017, we really began fundraising. So 17, 18, 19, we were out in the community talking to some potential major donors and building the endowment up. All the while, the city has also been a contributing partner, understanding like the future need for something long-term like this. Press pause for COVID 2020 and 21. And then we've gotten back up and running. So we're really excited to be at that at the, nearing 5.5 million. And I know it's a marathon, but something like this is going to provide a big sustainable revenue source or I should say sustainable grant source for all of the nonprofits, which are an incredibly important asset to our city. But I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna slow down on this, but I think that looking back at that timeline to see how an idea and identifying a need and thinking forward on what you want to achieve is a really great conversation piece to have. We're still building, but I know we'll get there. I know we'll get there. So yeah, if anyone has any, and I'm sorry I gave you my back the whole time, I'm looking at the screen. Hi, Brian. I'm happy to answer any questions, either technical and detailed or just more broad, and then maybe we can open it to the planning, future thinking. Okay.
Yeah, any questions for Shalene? So an endowment, just make sure it's clear. So an endowment is a big, pot of money that they can put aside and then just work off of the interest of it. So if it's 4 or 5% every year, if they had $20 million, then they could have $800,000 to $1 million, $800,000 to $1 million that would support the arts and cultural organizations in the community
every year.
Every year, and that's operational money, and operational money is incredibly difficult to get. Like the city gives programmatic grants, so they'll give you, and which makes a lot of sense. They'll give an arts organization money to provide a concert or to provide programming for the citizens, which makes sense. But then the organization still is, it's got to be able to operate for the other 300 days a year or however many days a year. We're not doing that, just that one program. So, and there's, it is long been a huge asset in Roanoke to have this strong arts and cultural community. And there are other communities now, we've got the Moss Art Center in Blacksburg, Stanton's knocked out of the ballpark. Harrisonburg's got a nice performing arts center, and they've got, built around the college campus. So there are other kind of, we've got competition as being the Western capital now, but I still think it's a big selling point for the community. And we're just glad that Shalene and the board are working hard in this long-term goal. So long-term goals. I do think it's a big aspect of what we should be doing. I heard today someone say, well, the artists are here to teach you how to dream. Which I thought was kind of a nice way to say it. Sometimes, having the big aspirational goal, seeing something that's not there is hard to do in a political realm. It's hard to do in a pragmatic realm, when you're working day to day. And so there's some power in being able to envision what's not quite here yet. Okay, any thoughts there before we keep going?
I was curious, Shalene, did you say you were projecting or hoping to be able to help sustain 20 organizations, or that's just how many happen to be here in the arts in Roanoke?
Oh, and it's a shifting figure. I mean, we've established the boundary. Your question was timeline, wasn't it?
Right, number of organizations, I think.
That's part of it, yeah. The numbers and then timeline, yeah.
Okay. Well, I imagine that the eligible organizations will evolve a little bit. Maybe some will fold, maybe some will merge. I hope they don't fold. Maybe some will merge, some will emerge. So, as of now, what the eligibility criteria looks like is a nonprofit in the city of Roanoke, established or in operation for at least 3 years, for program, year-round programming. And I believe that those are the criteria here in the city, because that's our partner. We were kind of given birth by the city of Roanoke.
So can I say something?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, Charlene, because I've been in this town. I have never understood how this all worked. So now I'm kind of understanding what I think I'm understanding is that your mission is to create a chunk of money that allows for the interest to grow. And that interest is what runs the organization. And the organization funds local arts nonprofits. Is that correct? Or
The
in what
endowment
way do you, yeah, so what do you do? So the first part was right, and I never got that, understood that before. So thank you, Doug, for breaking that down. So you want to make a lot of money so that the interest on that lot of money gives you a budget to work out of. Is that right?
Gives us grants to allocate. The funding, approximately $1 million that will be generated every year from that 20 million fund, that interest, if you will, every year, that will go straight out into the community through grants.
Well, I'm so thankful for you to share that, because I never understood how the relationship of the arts and culture, your organization, interacts with the neighborhood, although I've always been a fan of you personally. So thank you for breaking that down.
Oh, actually, thank you for that feedback, Catherine. That means a lot coming from you too, because I know that you're really like hands-on and understand you're really engaged. And so that tells me right there, like, hey, that's an important component of the messaging.
Yeah. Any other comments or thoughts, questions?
I had a question, which is, and hi, Shalene. I'm glad to see
Hey.
your face and grateful for your leadership in this role. So I understand the goal is 20 million to act as a foundation, but you're giving money now. I mean, you do things. So I'm not understanding how you're bringing in bigger sources of money to build that 20 million, but you're already giving money and supporting artists.
Okay, well, let's see. Yes, we are spending money on short-term projects. Oh, you're on mute, but I saw a thumbs up.
I was saying, don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely thrilled that you are supporting the artists currently. I just wanted to understand it seems like it's two streams of revenue and outgo.
Awesome question. So the endowment has received funding for some short-term projects. The funding we received really in 2 different ways. And ironically, the funding for part of them happened before COVID, and then the funding for part of them happened after COVID. So in the part before COVID, we received a really nice gift from an anonymous donor that said, hey, I get it. I get the endowment. I think it's important. Glad Roanoke's doing it. However, I would like to see my money being used for something like immediate. So the board's like, oh no, mission creep, right? You're like, oh, how can we stay on task knowing that we want to do grants someday, operational grants? So actually reached out to a couple arts leaders and got their feedback on what would be beneficial for them. And they said, hey, bringing training to us would be really helpful. So in 2018, we received this gift in 2018. We were able to do, or at least pay to have a consultant do some strategic planning workshop series. From that, the arts organizations participated for free. They got this training, and they also learned about strategic planning through doing a strategic plan for themselves as a group. And so they came and they like aligned their visions and they did the SWOT analysis together and kind of dreamed together on what they envisioned and needed. And then the very top priorities that, if you siphon that, the very top priorities that seemed more, that could pick up traction quickly, we put some more of that anonymous donors gift money behind. So they said, hey, we'd really like to see a new economic impact study. So that we brought Americans for the Arts to come in and do that. That was about $10,000. Totally worth it. I think the previous study was done in 2013 and there was also one in 2017, but the metrics for this, how they conducted the research was really in depth because it took into consideration audience intercept and audience feedback on their spending. So there was a needs assessment, which is kind of looking at operational needs, gaps and overlaps by all the nonprofits. Some of them all spend money on the same thing that maybe they could actually spend money to pool their money together, and it would be a more efficient way of cost. So that project got cut short because of COVID. I think that we had a consultant up from Virginia Tech run that, and she published her summary right before, I want to say it was at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. So these short-term impact projects have allowed us to help the sector, or at least allow the sector to move forward in ways that would strengthen the art sector. There were a couple, they wanted to see a collaborative arts celebration or festival. So we were able to provide seed money for the very first Roanoke Arts Pop event, which was in 2020, right before COVID hit. Holy macaroni. And then there was also the Star City Arts Festival. I don't know if anybody went to that. That was in August of 2019. And that was an outdoor collaborative arts festival that showcased arts and nonprofits. So we were able to help fund that. So post-COVID, we applied for ARPA funding through the city. And that is what allowed us to do two projects, kind of as a facilitator, as a conduit for collaborative work. One of those was the Buzz for Good series, that 6-part series, which I know I see so many people were there and have been a part of throughout that 6-part. And then the other was the Adaptive Leadership workshop series for the nonprofit leaders. So those are the short-term impact projects that we've done. That's how we paid for them. While all of that was going on, our board has been out in the community just kind of doing the same drumbeat and trying to raise funds so that we stay on mission for the restricted endowment account. But we don't spend any of that restricted or our endowment funds. We don't spend those on these short-term community projects. So we can't. Yeah.
Great. Thanks so much for explaining that. I was super curious because I see the logo on various things, so I know there have been things that you've been engaged in, and now I understand.
And some of
are those
logos,
reports? Oops, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, some of the work has been just in partnership too with the Roanoke Arts Commission. We try and maintain. I give Doug a lot of credit for this, and just your whole commission, but we try to really maintain a partnership that goes beyond just the financial aspect. Yes, the city, we're in the budget, we receive funding from the city, but I think a partnership is a lot more than that. And that's how you kind of build trust and are able to kind of navigate future planning. There's my segue back to future planning.
Yeah, and I want to echo that. It's, a strong art sector is critical to the city. And when we say art sector, we've got to mean the whole shebang, right? So it's got to be the arts and cultural organizations, it's got to be individual artists, it's got to be galleries that sell the work of the artists. So we really want a strong arts sector. And Shalene has been there hand in hand with us. There's hardly anything, within reason, there's hardly anything I've asked her, that she doesn't take back to her board, and we're dreaming up together, and then that I'm going to the Arts Commission with it. But it all lays really, really well together. So this Our Town grant that we just got to do the Arts Connect Neighbors, we couldn't have done without the endowment, because you've got to have a city partner and a nonprofit partner. So that was a terrific one. And so I do like the idea that we're thinking this far out too. That there are probably people who are leading organizations who may not even be leading that organization, or there may be leadership change, or there may be people, how people move so frequently now. There might be people who are investing in this endowment, knowing how important it is, and not even going to be the ones that benefit from it right now. That said, I'll say they're benefiting from it with Shalene's energy and the board's energy. For instance, making paper mache bees.
That was a great event.
Yeah. But I do want to say, and another part of another project that Shalene mentioned, the Buzz episodes, and the one that we did with JP Powell and Brian Hancock and a bunch of artists, with It's Here. That the song, and with the notion that it's here right now in Roanoke, where we can be investing and making a difference. And we're doing that to make it a better place today, but we're also doing it to make it a much better place 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. Mm-hmm. And you think back about how Roanoke started, and just kind of the boosterism that got the railroads, the 2 railroad lines across here, and the energy of creating of becoming a place. And I feel like that's something kind of cool that Roanoke's got. It's like we're always becoming a place. And I think it's the kind of place I want to live in. But it does take a lot of, it takes that current action and then that long-term view. And that long-term view often requires policy work. So working with city council, sometimes council has even worked with the legislature to get permission to do some things. But it's a similar, like last week we talked about the art space survey. There are people we're asking to respond to this survey, telling us what their needs are. And they might not be necessarily ones to immediately benefit from this. This project won't be built overnight. It'll be a number of years from now. But we've got to be doing this work hand in hand with that current work that we're doing that's impacting lives today. So even the things that we've already talked about today with the point in time count, and then art space and the endowment, we're seeing just how we have to be working. And so this is our question for tonight. And I want to give you a couple of minutes to think about it. And then I want to come back with anyone who's willing to share. And so I'd like to think about the visioning, and if the artist is able to help us dream, I'd like you to think about the end of this year. So we're in January of 2024. At the end of this year, we're going to have done a lot of work with the catalog. Who knows? We're going to have done a lot of work. But at the end of the year, what do you imagine as an outcome for a project you're working on? So that's the first part. And then the second part, can you imagine 5 years out and what an impact on our community might be from either that project or another project? So the end of this year and then 5 years. And I'll let you think for a moment. I'll be quiet, and then we'll come back. Okay, if someone wants to raise their hand, all right, volunteer.
I'm looking now to try to find the art space flyer because that was gonna go along with what I was trying to say, but I think by the end of this year, a lot of people, it's gonna restore hope for anyone who's, been a creator that maybe hasn't had a place to put it, and they're gonna be like, really inspired because they're gonna say, well, we haven't seen things put together like we're seeing now with the catalog. And in 5 years, we're going to see a lot of that become work because art is work. That's what I was looking for is with the art space thing. It went down the list of everything, all these different things that connect art. It's like, there's so many things. So that's going to be something people see realize and they're really benefiting from and getting the appreciation for that creative skill that they have. So it's just going to grow and grow.
I know one. Can I go?
Sure, Catherine.
Okay, well, mine is that working with you guys is a lot of fun. So I can say right now, like my projects in the catalog are all super fun. I think the most genuinely the best, I can't even say it. I'm so grateful to be able to take some of the things that I get to do in my life and in my studio out in neighborhoods and provide it to people who don't already have a lot of arts experiences. That is like the real magic of this catalog, that there isn't going to be a cost, no one's going to be excluded. I know we're going to do a lot of work getting that message across and getting people to participate and to take advantage of this opportunity. So anyhow, my number one thing is I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun working with you all over the last couple of years as artists in residence. So my first thing is that this year will end up tiring, but also super fun. And I think in 5 years, a lot of you will be friends. You won't just be associates of people I got to meet. And I think that is probably the most amazing part of this whole project is that arts connect neighbors, but this project also connects artists in a way that we've never had before. So that's it.
I'll jump onto that if I can.
Yeah.
My big fear is talking too long. Please stop me if I go too long. But Corey started off pretty well with the idea of hope, and Amy's here. I have my studio in that area, and so my relationship with the art space is more like being a neighbor, more than thinking about being engaged with it. But I've heard so many people really need this opportunity for affordable housing. Your presentation last week was fantastic. And that is the kind of hope that I've heard that Corey talk about. And there's so many people being displaced because of not having the ability to pay for rent that are leaving Roanoke. This is a very urgent time, and art space is really a godsend. And it can't be for everyone. It still takes 3 years, but it is a hope, and we do need that kind of hope. And the last thing I'd like to get to is what I can't. I'll wear my curmudgeon hat because I'm known to have one, and so I've had some criticism of how things are being approached through the arts over the past, and when Shalene came on with this idea of the cultural endowment. The first thing I look for is a lot of the artists that are here tonight, they're involved in these programs that Doug's put together, were not represented because you needed a nonprofit to do that. And so there's no reason why Shalene should have had reached out and saw a bigger picture. And there's no reason for Doug to have looked out to have a bit bigger picture. But the fact they did shows that they've gone above and beyond in a way that included us that are here tonight. A lot of us artists that aren't included because we're not nonprofits, and we don't want to be nonprofits, a lot of us, for lots of good reasons. And so there's a lot of hope there too, because of what you're doing beyond what's needed or is even acknowledged or recognized. And I'm sure you've been given a lot of recognition in the past, but I do want to thank you for it. And not without my curmudgeon thing still existing and
but-
my criticisms. But thank you.
Any other outcomes for this year or in 5 years?
Hey guys, it's Robin here.
Hey, Robin.
I'm not really sure about this year. I don't know if I may have one later, but just thinking about the capacity in which a lot of us here operate, and thinking about the work that Polly does, thinking about the work that Jane does, thinking about the work that Brian does, and so many others. And I just see, you know, the work within this group here being a catalyst for social action in our area. So I think that we're going to see the landscape of our communities change for the better, is my perspective, based on just art being that catalyst for change. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I think that art is a light and easy way, not easy, but a light, a more palatable way. Maybe I'll say that, palatable way to win friends and win, allies through art, versus, not necessarily going up and being, like, we need this, we need that. But if you paint it in a pretty picture, if you put some colors with it, color with your words, and you can, put this all together, I think that, we can see change happen all around us. And I think that it's starting to happen in Northwest. I think it's starting to happen in Southeast. I think it's starting to happen all over the Valley. So that's what I look at. Hopefully this group, that we can be the catalyst for the change that we want to see in our community through art-based initiatives.
Well said. Yeah. Thank you, Robin. Anyone else?
I'll say something.
Hey, Molly.
Hi. So, for our Arts Connects Neighbors projects, I'm doing the fairy houses, and for this year, I'd love for it to happen at all. I hope there's interest in it and we get to do it. But 5 years from now, I would love for it to become like a tradition that everybody's looking forward to, that we do a lot like Daisy Art Parade, where it's like everybody knows it's coming, everyone's excited. I would love to see that happen for a lot of these projects. Like, let's have them be such a hit that people are looking forward to it every year.
Excellent. Thanks, Molly. Anyone else?
I'm kind of piggybacking with Robin that more people will be exposed to this process, these opportunities that we've been engaging in, and other community workshops and studies. When Shalene was talking about the different reports and leadership workshops, I was like, oh yeah, more and more of us need to jump in on those trainings and invite other neighborhood leaders and family members to be a part of the decision-making processes that are going on, emerging now in our neighborhoods. And it can only help when we have some of that shared language and abilities to find the resources and the teammates while we're working on these neighborhoods. And I'm praying for that for Gainesboro and our response to urban renewal there, and how we can bring back resources.
Yeah. Thank you, Polly. Yeah, I'm really, really happy that Molly Hunter is in her position now as neighborhood services. And she was with us on Friday when the coaches and facilitators were having their conversation. And she is going to be critical in this, the neighborhood services side. So she's another really strong ally. And more than ally, she's going to be doing it with us. because choosing an art activity out of the catalog is a decision-making process. And if we can coach a neighborhood through that, through making a simple decision, like, do we do a paint night or a dance party? And if you can, if you can make that decision, it's the same muscle, right? And we can talk about how they make the decision and use that as a leverage point for the next decision they make. And they can come together. We're afraid sometimes to make these decisions because it brings us to a point of potential conflict where I want something and everyone else around the table wants something individually. So how do we work through that? Because you know what? It doesn't matter. Because this first time, you can have a dance party the first time, and then the second time you can have paint night, and we'll make all that happen. But really, some of these decisions, it doesn't matter what the decision is sometimes, just that a group is able to come together and make a decision. Yeah. Any other goals for this year or in 5 years? Not goals, but it impacts vision, what you see happening.
I would say just like being part of the art space project, I can't even really imagine what the end of next month is gonna look like, let alone the end of the next year. So it's kind of crazy. And then this year in particular, obviously is a huge year. It's an election year. There's so much uncertainty, but the message of hope that seems present is very important. And sometimes it feels like Roanoke, we're kind of in a bubble. And sometimes that can be a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. But this feels like a kind of a good thing because despite a lot of the craziness around, feels like there's a lot of good people here trying to do good things and care about each other and creating a better community. And I think that's such an important message in today's times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's not everywhere you're gonna go.
Yeah,
for sure.
And no matter how crazy things feel, taking action locally, affecting more of what you can feel better. And that's one of Angela Blackwell from Policy Link in Berkeley or Oakland. They have an equity manifesto. And one of the points is act locally. Just do it locally. And I think it's some of the most meaningful work we can be doing. I know that it is important to do like policy work at a national scale and such, and we've got to be alert. But there's so much we can do here and now. And today they had a summit with the National Endowment for the Arts and the Domestic Policy Council, and they focused on the role of arts in communities. So how can they integrate the arts with EPA, with the Surgeon General was there talking about the incorporating into Health and Human Services, multiple agencies, but really the big takeaway was that at least this administration is organizing around that. And the National Endowment for the Arts, I think they're seeing success and seeing energy from communities that are doing this kind of work. So hopefully there'll be more resources out there as well. But yeah, my big takeaway from it was that what you are doing and what we are doing together is significant. This is meaningful, and I'm really happy that you're part of it. Any other thoughts? All right, and some updates. So we have, if you're applying for an artist action grant, those are due tomorrow at midnight. And those are our Art Matters grants, advancing justice, wellness, and inclusion in the community. And those are at roanokearts.org/action. Our neighborhood meetings are outreach to begin really full force now that we have the catalog. We're going to do the first one on the 1st. That's going to be the Wasena neighborhood because they reached out. We're really excited about it. So we're going to go to their neighborhood meeting. And if you're talking to any neighbors and they are getting people together, please do offer us up. So Katie and Joy and Antonio and me and Molly. And I'm guessing there'll probably, if you're part of a neighborhood group, we'll count you in on that too. Or there might be artists who end up saying, "Oh, I want to be part of this on the neighborhood organizing side as well." So we'll start getting a list together of those. But if you talk to anybody, offer us up and let us know when a neighborhood's meeting, and or when a group of neighbors, they don't even have to be organized as a neighborhood organization. Just let us know. Art by Night is coming up on Friday. And let's see, hey, Robin, you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask about the neighborhood catalogs.
Yeah,
Is there currently, and maybe I haven't seen it, or maybe it's not there yet, is there like a FAQ page for like neighborhoods or organizations that want to put something together where they can like see
there,
like frequently asked questions or something like that?
yeah, there's some frequently asked questions on the website, roanokearts.org/neighbors, but there's probably too much information in the catalog.
Okay.
If somebody sits down and reads it from the start on, they'll get a
Hmm.
they'll get a really good sense of it. So there's a
Okay.
lot of
I
yeah.
had gotten a question from someone about whether or not you could use those items in there for fundraising activities, and I didn't know if I saw anything about it or not. Like if a group was trying to do a fundraiser or something. Like for example, there's the mobile paint party.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. We would rather, if a neighborhood wanted to raise money by doing it, we'd rather that first they bring everybody together through our arts activities, and then they figure out what the fundraiser is.
okay.
They don't need to raise money for this because we're paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that, when this is a lesson. When you get people together and they say, let's do something. What is
Mm-hmm.
the very first hang up?
How much is it going to cost us?
How much is it going to cost? Who's going to raise the money? Not it. So we want to take the money out of this equation and provide this for free. And as part of that, I can't quite yet see how we don't want them charging neighbors to come for it. Even if that's who's raising even if they're raising money for the neighborhood organization. I feel like that would get them back and kind of reduce the benefit of what we're
Okay.
trying. Yeah.
Okay. Makes
But
sense.
I'm always open to. I don't see everything straightforward sometimes, so there might be a reason. So you can feel free to reach out too.
For sure. Thank you.
Um, Art by Night's coming up on February 2nd, and let's see Oh, on February 6th, that's next week, a week from today, Joy and Katie and Antonio are going to present the process that we're going to use in talking with neighborhoods. And it's not going to be a real in-depth process, but we're just going to talk about that neighborhood conversation. And we might hit on some more questions like that, Robin. And then Arts Pop. We have people have been signing up.
Yay!
Shalene loves going out to Arts Pop, and we've had done it the last 2 years. I think 2 years.
We used to bring the big wheel. Did anybody spin the big wheel? Have you spun the big wheel?
No, I've seen it.
Have you spun the big wheel?
You've
spun the big wheel.
I've carried the big wheel.
Can we bring the big wheel in here and spin it at a future meeting?
We can. We will bring the big wheel in next meeting. We'll spin it. And the big wheel, it's one of my favorite questions, is that when it lands on Roanoke Cultural Endowment, which it seems to do a lot, I think it's rigged. But when it lands, when it lands on Roanoke Cultural Endowment, we say, what do we say?
We say, hey, the Roanoke Cultural Endowment, we're like a savings account. We're saving money for the arts so that we can, spend money on something. And then we turn it to typically like an 8 or 9-year-old who has to process this concept. And you ask them, what are you saving money for? And so we ask them to like kind of tell us what they would save their money for. So we're trying to draw that parallel.
Yeah. Yeah. And one young man said to start a business.
Oh, like a really
Yeah.
young man, yes.
Yeah, it's like, wow.
Yeah, like 10 years old.
Yeah. So, I do have what I'll do is share this real fast. And I'll show you who signed up. And on our sign up now. Woo! Okay. Okay, so Friday evening at the atrium table, we've got Catherine and Misty Dawn. Saturday morning at the table, Mike Moran and Sky Hartwell. Saturday afternoon, Brian Cunahan and Katie Pickle. And then from 2 to 4, Michelle Acker, and then the team from Mental Health in Motion. And so that's going to be happening in the atrium at the table. Those are the artists who have signed up. And then the cafe workshops, we've got at 10:30, we've got Tahisha and Linda do the drum and demonstration and dance engagement. Mandala making with Misty Dawn Vickers at 11:30. Tiny Doors with Sky Hartwell at 12:30. Somatic Movement with Smell Ramsey at 1:30. And then Singing Circles with Joy Truskowski and Katie Trazo at 2:30. So that's who we have on the list. If you weren't able to get on the list, I didn't put it like I didn't put an alternate, or I didn't put like I'm interested, so it might not have given you an option. So just reach out to me if you wanted to be on the list and you're not on it. And then if somebody has to cancel for illness or anything, then we'll get you in there. And there might be a way to get you in there anyway. So yeah. So with that, thank you everybody for signing up. We are really looking forward to that. That's a month out, and we're going to now get this information to the Taubman Museum of Art so they can market it, so they can put your name on the information that's going out. So I will polish this up a little bit and run it by you, or if you have a specific language that you want to make sure is in there, make sure I get it. Sound good? All right. Well,
I like your language as it is.
Okay.
Very nice language in the catalog.
Well, all right. So we're gonna have I can't wait to watch the Cranky at work, because the kids love the kids love the Cranky.
It's cranky in all kinds of ways. It comes to mind when you think of crankies. So it'll be fun.
Excellent. Well, we're at our time. If there's nothing else, then we'll say goodnight. Anybody have anything else?
Hey, Doug, I got one question, and while I got you there, maybe you both might have an answer, but Tom asked me, and I don't know the answer, but he had a musician that he was working with who's new to the area, and that musician wanted to know what he needed to do to be able to busk and to play music on the street. And I didn't know the answer. I don't know exactly whether there's a specific permit for busking, whether you have to have approval, or whether a shop owner might complain. Like, do any of you all know what the answer to that would be?
I've asked that question before. I don't really remember the answer. In my memory, it's the itinerant business license, which is like $50 a year.
Okay.
I think, but let me check in with the planners and get that back to you.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to respond to that with Tom, and that'd also be something to bring up when we do our artist meetings about making money and being out in the public and creating interest in what we're doing. So it's a good thing to know. And I know this guy already has a business license, but I don't know if he needs an additional license to perform.
I think if he has a business license in the city, he's probably good. I think that itinerant's for people who live outside this, or who don't have their business based in the city. Okay. I imagine he's going to be good. I know that the city wanted to not do anything as opposed to do something to slow it down. They don't want to get in the way of it. Like they didn't want to like set up official places or whatnot. So let me get the latest and greatest on that for you.
Yeah, because that'd be great for Art by Night.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Really great.
Yeah.
Catherine, don't you tell him to fill out the survey. Your busker, he needs to fill out the survey. Everybody needs
I got like 10 people to fill out the survey.
She's on it.
Sorry, I had to get my little plug in.
I filled it out twice, just like we do in Chicago.
Fill it out early and often.
Oh, no. All right. Well, thank you all for spending time with us tonight. All right. Bye.
Bye. I designed a poster based on your inspiration.
That's awesome. Can I have these?
That is
You can.
so cool.
This is what Corey's gonna help me with right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you're gonna take a picture, I guess?
Yeah, I need to get a picture